They said the sea doesn't scream, but we all heard it. It began when the drill stopped without warning, a shuddering gasp echoing through the metal veins of the rig. The engines stilled, and the ocean below seemed to breathe, slow and heavy, as if something ancient had just woken up. I remember the sound. Not mechanical, not wind, but voices, rising from the black water like a prayer turned wrong. No one moved. Salt stung the air. The deck lights flickered, and every ripple in the sea seemed to watch us back. A wrench rolled across the floor, spinning in silence until it struck the railing and clanged once. Too loud, too sharp. Then the voices grew louder. Some swore it was the pipes. Others whispered it was the dead. But no one dared to speak above a whisper. I looked down into the dark and thought I saw something move. Not a shadow, not a wave. Something else. Something that had been waiting 13 long minutes for us to listen. The clock above the control room door had stopped at 2. No one noticed until it ticked again, backward. The air smelled of rust and ozone, and the sound came again, low and hollow, as if the sea itself had lungs. I pressed my ear against the bulkhead. It pulsed, alive, whispering words that didn't belong to us. The rig was built for noise, engines, drills, turbines. Yet the silence between those beats felt heavier than pressure. Something moved below, and the entire platform swayed as if something vast brushed against it. Fear crept in like cold water, filling our boots, slow and unstoppable. They said the rig's foundation reached down to the edge of the abyss, the kind of place light forgets. The maintenance tunnels beneath the deck always breathed, but now they whispered. I went down alone, flashlight slicing through condensation and oil mist. Every clang of my boots echoed back wrong, as if something was walking just behind, perfectly out of sync. The deeper I went, the louder the vibration became, until it wasn't metal I felt, but something alive and massive, pulsing through the pipes like blood. Then the whisper came again, this time from the dark ahead. Upstairs, the monitors came alive again. No feed, no data, just faces flickering and static, screaming silently from the depths. Marla tried to shut it off, but the power controls were dead. Then the rig groaned, deep and mournful, and the screens began to shake. I could feel the sea pressing closer, as though something beneath wanted to be seen. Marla's voice trembled when she said it. It's calling back. And somehow, I knew she was right. The sea spoke again at 2:26, 13 minutes after it first began. But this time, it didn't just speak. The rig tilted slightly, groaning under invisible weight. The sound rose from beneath the hull, vibrating through our bones, carrying voices layered like a choir of drowning men. I ran to the deck, and the horizon was wrong, curved upward, holding the moon like an eye. Then the voices stopped, and for one terrible heartbeat, I thought I heard my own voice echoing back from the dark below. At dawn, the rig began to hum again, not the clean rhythm of machinery, but a deep, uneven tremor that made every bolt sing. We gathered on deck, 5 of us now, pretending to fix things that weren't broken. The sea was flat, too still, and the air pressed down like thick glass. Thomas swore the hum was electrical. Marla said it was biological. The truth sat somewhere between alive, but mechanical, as though the ocean had learned to breathe through steel. Every time the hum rose, the rig lights dimmed, and every time it faded, the water glowed faintly, as if something beneath was drawing in breath. We lowered the dive cage into the dark, the cables groaning as if reluctant to obey. Lena volunteered, though her hands shook as she fastened the helmet. She said she'd been dreaming of the voices, that they whispered coordinates, depths, promises. The others turned away when she descended. The winch spun out line, slower, slower, until the last echo vanished below. Only the intercom remained, hissing softly. Then it came, the same voice that rose from the sea, But this time, through her microphone, it said her name. Her descent was silent for almost 2 minutes. Then the speakers cracked with static, and through it came something that didn't sound human. The voice layered itself, one tone calling, another answering. Marla recorded it. She said it wasn't random noise, it was language. I wanted to believe her, but the words carried weight, pressing into my skull like a pressure wave. Then, Lena's voice broke through. Faint, gasping, whispering a single phrase that none of us could repeat afterward. The moment it ended, the lights died, and the rig exhaled. By evening, the rig had begun to leak. Not from the pipes, but from the walls themselves. Salt water seeped through steel seams, cold and slow, as if the ocean had found its way in. Thomas said it was condensation, but when I touched it, I felt a pulse. Marla's instruments showed pressure spikes that didn't match the tides. The hum returned, softer now, almost kind. For a moment, it sounded like Lena's laugh echoing through the vents. Then the wall behind me shuddered, and the sound turned into a scream. When the sun finally set, the sea rose without wind. It lifted the rig an inch, then settled as though testing its weight. The horizon vanished into black. We saw shapes moving beneath the surface, outlines of towers, arches, impossible geometry. Marla whispered that the seabed was changing. Captain Rhodes called for evacuation, but the lifeboats were gone, lines torn clean. Somewhere below, the drill began to turn again on its own, humming to the same rhythm as the voices. And this time, they were laughing. The rig creaked like something breathing in its sleep. We hadn't felt the waves in hours. Instead, a slow downward pull, as if gravity had changed its mind. The ocean's surface above shimmered faintly, no longer reflecting stars. Thomas said we were still stationary, but the pressure gauges disagreed. Marla stared at the screens, numbers falling deeper than the ocean should go. The captain tried to contact the Coast Guard, but the line hissed back with whispers too low to understand. We were being drawn. We were being drawn. And below, in that growing darkness, something waited for the silence to break first. Below the deck, the shaft throbbed like a lung. Every 5 seconds, air and seawater pulsed through the steel in perfect rhythm. When I placed my ear to the casing, I heard more than pressure. I heard words, not in any language I knew, but rhythmic, deliberate. The sound made my teeth ache. Marla descended halfway to the maintenance level before stopping cold, flashlight shaking. "It's breathing," she whispered. The rig's floor moved beneath us, stretching and contracting like muscle. I wanted to run, but curiosity is a cruel thing. It makes you stay just long enough to understand what you should. Marla ran diagnostics again and again, her fingers trembling on the keys. The data looped back 13 times, each cycle ending in a blank screen. Then the words, "pressure," stabilized. Tomas whispered that maybe the system wasn't measuring the ocean anymore. Maybe it was measuring us. The captain barked for silence, but the words on the screen changed, letters forming one by one, deliberate, aware. "We remember." I didn't realize I was backing away until the cold metal of the wall touched my spine. For the first time, even the sea outside seemed to hold its breath. A new light appeared below the rig, faint at first, then steady. It wasn't from the drill. It moved, swirling like a living current. Marla said it was deep bioluminescence, but her voice betrayed her doubt. The glow pulsed to the rhythm of the hum we'd heard since the first silence. Thomas dropped a wrench. It clattered once, then floated as if gravity had loosened its hold. We stared over the rail as that light spread in widening circles, bright enough to touch the hull. For a second, I thought I saw figures moving in it, like people waiting at the bottom of the sea. At exactly 2:13 again, the hum stopped. The ocean went silent. Then the rig dropped 6 meters in an instant. The floor buckled. Alarms blared and died mid-tone. When the lights returned, The reading showed we were deeper than any charted ocean floor. 13,000 meters below. But the sensors weren't showing rock beneath us. They showed an open void, something vast and hollow, something waiting. Marla whispered that maybe this wasn't the bottom. Maybe this was the mouth. And when the sound returned, slow, deliberate, and close, it sounded like the sea had started speaking through the steel itself. By the fourth night, the ocean had found its way into everything. The corridors dripped with salt, the floors slicked with brine, and the air vibrated with a heartbeat we couldn't trace. The hum no longer came from the machinery. It came from us. Our voices faltered. Our breath turned to mist. I saw Marla staring at the walls, whispering back to the water as if answering something only she could hear. The rig groaned beneath us, not from pressure, but from recognition. Somewhere, deep in the steel bones below, the sea remembered our names. Thomas found something in the footage, frames recorded between power surges, showing the drill site from below. Shapes, dozens of them, suspended in black water, all facing upward, faces blurred by motion, eyes bright as coins. When he slowed it down, one of them moved, and for a heartbeat, I thought I saw Lena's face staring back from the abyss. Marla told him to delete it, but the footage looped on its own. The reflection in the monitor blinked, once, slowly, and the rig lights flickered as if answering. We heard her voice again, Lena's, through the radio static, calling from beneath the rig. Pressure rising, she said. I am still here. The words weren't panicked. They were calm, almost welcome. Captain Rhodes ordered the comms shut off, but the switch did nothing. The radio bled sound even when unplugged. Every frequency carried her tone, layered with echoes like something trying to speak through her lungs. Marla cried then. Thomas whispered that maybe the sea had found a translator. The gauges started climbing faster than we'd ever seen. Pressure in the lower tanks, rising without source. Steel groaned like an old throat clearing. We scrambled to shut valves, twist wheels, hammer locks. But every movement echoed too loudly, as though we were being listened to. The hum grew into a vibration that shook bolts loose. Water sprayed from seams, mist glowing in the harsh deck lights. For a moment, I thought the rig might lift itself clear from the sea. Then I realized it wasn't trying to rise. It was being pulled down. The rig sank 2 meters before the cables locked. The hum became a tone so low it rattled our bones. Every monitor filled with water, rippling screens showing not reflections, but scenes below. Lena stood there, impossibly calm, surrounded by hundreds of faces drifting like lanterns. She looked up, lips moving with the rhythm of the tone. The deck lights dimmed. The sea climbed over the railings, and as the water reached my knees, I finally understood what the voices had been saying since the first silence. They weren't calling for help. They were calling us home. The first jolt came like a heartbeat from below, a single, pulsing strike that threw us to the floor. Metal screamed. Bolts snapped. The entire rig shuddered as if the sea had taken hold of it with invisible hands. I heard Captain Rhodes shouting orders drowned by the grinding of steel. We ran for the emergency tower, but the world tilted. The horizon rolled upward, black and endless, swallowing the last of the stars. Then, with a low moan that shook every plate and girder, the rig began to sink. Not collapse, not crumble, but sink steady and deliberate, like a ship being reclaimed by its maker. We went under with the dawn. Light faded fast. Gold to gray, gray to green. And then only black. Windows along the lower deck burst inward, flooding hallways with pressure and silence. The rig no longer moved like a machine. It drifted like something alive, breathing slow and deep. Marla's voice trembled over the intercom, saying we were descending faster than physics allowed. Thomas cursed under his breath, staring at gauges spinning freely. The captain stood motionless, watching the black water climb past the glass. I realized then we were being invited down. We were being invited down. Then we saw it. A city rising from the darkness, built from coral and glass, spires twisting in impossible geometry. It pulsed with faint blue light, alive with movement that was not human. The structures swayed gently, as if breathing. Shapes drifted between them, thousands, maybe millions. Faces turned upward toward us, expressionless, waiting. The hum returned, clearer now, like a song sung through miles of water, and among those faces, floating at the edge of the light, was Lena. She smiled as if she'd never left. The comms came alive again, filled with a low, rhythmic tone. Marla realized it wasn't random. It was repeating coordinates, words buried in sound. "It's an invitation," she whispered. The lights flickered, matching the pulse. Elias reached for the main controls, his hands shaking as he tried to reverse power, but the switches resisted. It was as though the rig itself had chosen. "They built this," Thomas said quietly. "They want us to finish it." Outside, the city's towers began to move, bending upward toward us, like arms reaching through the sea. The drill roared to life one last time, spinning with no power, driven by the current below. The sound grew unbearable, the metal vibrating like a struck bell. Outside, the sea split open, a column of light rising from the city, swallowing the rig whole. The water glowed with shapes too vast to see, too real to deny. Lena's voice filled the air, no longer human. She spoke our names, not as she remembered them, but as something older did. The rig began to turn, weightless, descending through the open gate. And in that final moment, before the light took us, the sea stopped humming. It started breathing. When the light took us, it wasn't fire or sun. It was breath. A slow inhale that drew the rig downward until sound itself dissolved. The world turned white, endless and weightless. The metal around us shimmered like glass. Every bolt seemed to hum with a heartbeat not its own. We could still move, but gravity had forgotten us. I reached for Marla's hand, and for a moment our shadows floated free of our bodies, drifting ahead like they remembered where to go. Then the light began to pulse. Once, twice, and the sea whispered back. We drifted through corridors made of light. Every wall was transparent, showing shapes moving within, currents of color that shifted like breath beneath skin. The hum we'd heard for days was now a rhythm, steady and gentle, like a pulse guiding us forward. Captain Rhodes whispered that the rig was gone, melted into this place. Marla disagreed. She said we'd become part of something larger, something alive, and as I placed my hand against the wall, it throbbed once beneath my palm. Warm, almost human. The air shimmered, and the voices returned, not from the sea now, but from the light itself. They spoke softly, each word echoing in our chests instead of our ears. Thomas fell to his knees, whispering answers no one else understood. Marla clutched the recorder, desperate to catch the sound, though nothing mechanical could hold it. The captain tried to call out for control, but the light replied with laughter. Quiet, tender, and endless. I realized then, it wasn't mocking us. It was remembering us. She turned to us and smiled, and for the first time I understood. Lena hadn't been taken. She'd been changed. The glow around her pulsed in time with the vast heartbeat of this place. "It's not the end," she said. "It's translation." Her voice didn't travel through air. It blossomed directly in our thoughts. The captain stepped back, terrified. Marla reached forward instead, whispering her name. And when Lena touched her hand, the light surged brighter, showing us everything the sea had hidden for centuries. The light dimmed, revealing a reflection above us. A perfect sea, suspended upside down, calm and endless. Through it, I saw the rig silent, untouched, floating as if none of this had happened. "We're still there," I whispered. Lena smiled. And here, the heartbeat faded into silence. One by one, the lights withdrew, leaving only our reflections staring back from the mirrored water above. Then the sea exhaled, and I felt gravity return. When I opened my eyes again, the world was quiet. The rig drifted under dawn's gray sky, and the only sound left was the breath of the ocean, steady and alive. The ocean was still when I woke. No wind, no sound, not even the creak of metal. The rig floated beneath a pale sky, every drop of water around us smooth as glass. The others stirred slowly, dazed but breathing. Marla looked to the horizon where dawn met the sea, whispering that she couldn't hear the hum anymore. The captain checked the gauges out of habit. Every reading sat at 0. For the first time in days, silence didn't feel empty. It felt alive, watching. The air shimmered faintly, and I wondered if the light had followed us home. Hours passed, but no radio answered. No ships appeared. The rig drifted quietly, untethered. Thomas said we might have lost power for good, but when I checked the panels, they hummed faintly, like something breathing deep below deck. Marla wanted to go down again, to see if the light had left traces. The captain forbade it. He stared out to sea, muttering that it was finished, that some things were meant to stay forgotten, but the ocean didn't look finished. It looked patient. At dusk, I saw her again. Not standing, not speaking, just her reflection, shimmering across the water. Lena's face rippled beneath the surface, her eyes open, calm. She smiled when I whispered her name. Marla joined me, staring in silence. The captain wouldn't look. "She's gone," he said, though his voice broke on the word. The reflection blinked once, and the water shimmered with faint light that moved outward in gentle rings. It wasn't a warning this time. It was a farewell. The radio crackled once before nightfall. A soft static, then a voice. Ours, but not ours. It said the rig's name, coordinates, and one word repeated 3 times. Surface. The captain stared at the speaker, like it was a ghost. Marla tried to reply, but the mic stayed dead. I realized we weren't meant to answer. The voice was a recording, one sent before we'd ever gone under. A loop of ourselves, calling for help that never came. The static faded, leaving only the sea, whispering the same word back. When night fell, the sea finally moved. A slow tide rose around the rig, not violent, but deliberate, each wave carrying a faint glimmer beneath its crest. We stood together at the edge, listening. The hum had become a rhythm again, gentle and endless. It wasn't calling us this time. It was letting us go. I looked down one last time, and the reflection of the rig shimmered, showing not metal, but something alive and breathing. The captain saluted it. Marla smiled faintly, and as the first stars appeared, the sea exhaled, steady, forgiving, eternal.